All right, guys, welcome back to Under the Scope, powered by Esports Labs, the podcast where we'll take a look into the exciting industry of esports and gaming. So today with us in our episode 2, we actually have someone new with us. His name is Travis Cochran. I'll let him introduce himself briefly to you guys, and then we'll talk a little bit about what to expect in this episode. Travis?
Yeah, thanks, Silver. Yeah, guys, my name is Travis Cochran. I'm being brought on as the Chief Strategy Officer for Esports Labs, and excited to be here and have be part of the very second episode of Under the Scope.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're as you can see, we're very new, but you have a lot of experience with you. So I know that you've done a couple of things that do broadcasting and all that great stuff. So you have a little bit more background than we do when it comes to this portion of the industry. So we're gonna touch on that here in a little bit. So you could kind of give us some details, a little bit of your background and everything, since Will, that's here with us today as well. Unfortunately, Jay couldn't make it in today's, but we got a great replacement for today, right? Wouldn't you say, Will? And then and, and then we'll go ahead and bring up what we're going to talk about, which is what everyone's talking about right now, right? That's Black Ops 4. So. But yeah, so Travis, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do, what you did, and how are you involved in esports?
Yeah, absolutely. I started playing games when I was really, really young. My parents actually wouldn't allow me to have a video game console, like when I was going through high school. So, but you had to, of course, have a PC in order to do homework, Word document, all that good stuff. So I kind of transformed my schoolwork at my school PC into my gaming PC, and I play there. And then when I went into college, I bought my very first console, the Xbox 360, and from there, the rest is kind of history. That's where my kind of competitive career took off. I poured in just countless, endless hours into Call of Duty, especially the Black Ops 2 title, which is where I went I ranked second in rank play for the Masters Division. That kind of put me on the map. And then after that, I kind of transferred over to the Battlefield franchise, and Battlefield 4 is where I stamped in my gamer tag in the sniping world for sniping there, ranked second in the world for sniping with the CLSLR4, and also the 6th longest headshot ever made on the Xbox One platform. So I come from a primarily first-person shooter background, and I've also I graduated from USC with in Annenberg, broadcast journalism, and in the cinema school, so have a background in broadcasting, and so I've done also casting for online tournaments that range from Call of Duty to Battlefield and to Halo and whatnot. So I have both my feet in the competitive side of things and broadcast as well.
Nice. Well, it's very exciting to have you here, and and again, welcome onto the team. I know that you bring a different dynamic than a lot of us do, so that's again, I'm very, very excited. Obviously, with what we're going to be doing with Esports Labs, it's just kind of we're trying to get this core group in place, and you fit well, right? So you fit like a glove, like they say, right? But yeah, so.
Thanks for having me, by the way. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But so one of the things that's exciting, right, is like I start looking at all these, the different types of games that are going on, everything that's being built and everything. And obviously from your background, from Will's background, if you, I'll refresh a little bit, but also Will comes from Call of Duty background. I myself started with Halo and then went to Call of Duty. So we're kind of in that same realm, and pretty much, I want to say that we've kind of moved from there, but we kind of come back to Call of Duty, it's more people moving away from it until I think now recently, right? So today was very interesting for me because, here I come. I said, like, all right, I like watching Dr. Disrespect. I like watching Shroud. And I said, let me go look and see what those guys are doing today. And I saw that they had joined a tournament, right? And in that tournament, they actually, it's a 20K called Code Red, and it's put on by Esports Arena, and and it was very interesting to see the way they're doing things, how Battle Royale has continued to develop and grow. But for you, Travis, and Will, that you guys have come from just a 2-man, 4-man team, multiplayer to a Battle Royale. How's that changed? Like how do you take that change, and how do you, I guess, step into that realm now?
I can go. Yeah, I'm excited to see what type of competitions they're going to do with Blackout. Along with the 5v5 competitions, I think that's going to be a huge twist in the dynamics of gameplay with 5 players per team, and then how they're going to work in competitive Blackout.
No, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's just I was wondering more of what you yourself, your personal experience would be, since you came from Call of Duty multiplayer to now the Blackout portion of it. Are you gonna play Blackout, or are you just gonna stick to multiplayer, or what are you doing, Will?
Well, honestly, I haven't really been playing much of games at all, but for the most part, I'll probably stick to multiplayer as usual.
Okay, you're more of a hardcore or core gamer?
I'm definitely a hardcore player. I'll play core. I enjoy hardcore a lot more. It's much funner to get chain kills and run into a room and just blast everyone versus having to get 1 or 2 guys at a time.
Actually, need skill to kill people. Is that what we're hearing here?
If that's what you want to say, I think it takes skill to play both games.
I don't know, Travis. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the battle royale genre has completely taken over the game industry, and it's completely swept through all the traditional games that we're used to playing, including the big FPS games like Battlefield, Call of Duty, Halo, which there's talks of a battle royale coming to that as well, and we already know that with Battlefield 5 there's going to be a battle royale, and then with that it's changing the way that we're having to play. Like I know for me, it's like coming back, doing traditional multiplayer. It's like in my mind when I'm playing Search and Destroy, I know that there's a finite amount of routes. I know that there's a finite amount of spawn locations. Whereas with battle royale, it's like a guy could be anywhere, like behind a tree, a rock, at any location. So it's like your kind of like perception of that, and your situational awareness, you're having to expand greatly because you're going from like a confined little map that's like a little laser tag map with 3 routes if it's a Treyarch COD, and now you're going and expanding that to a huge open world, almost like an RPG game, but with the battle royale setting. And so for me, it's just like it's you're totally reprogramming your mind of like how to actually approach how to play those. And for me, it is different. I'm not like a huge fan of the battle royale genre myself, but I am really, really enjoying Blackout. I think in terms of its functionality, it's very, very smooth. The gun mechanics are great. The movement's great. It's very silky smooth, and I like it a lot. It's just for me on the battle royale genre myself, the thing I have a trouble with is just the very initial stages of every battle royale. It's the looting process and going from location to location to loot to gain more better weapons, better gear, better inventory. And to me, that just plays more into labor and instead of actually being fun. And so so it's just for me, like going from like looting from house to house, and especially like on a game like PUBG, where it's like most of the action happens within the culminating last 5 minutes. And then, there's some games where you don't see anybody until the very end. To me, that's kind of like where I'm not a huge fan of the battle royales portion of the genre itself. But nonetheless, Blackout, I am enjoying a lot. It is a faster paced game, but that looting mechanic, still not a huge fan of.
I think it's really a luck of the draw of what you're looting and what you're picking up. If you're not familiar with every weapon, you could get a weapon that you're not, like a shotgun, and you want to hit, you're a long range hitter or you're a sniper, you're kind of stuck with that weapon that you get lucky to get.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy the way that works though, because you're right, you're absolutely right. I mean, for me, obviously the first battle royale was with the first battle royale, PUBG, right? So I remember dropping, having to figure out how to pick up weapons, a backpack, a helmet and vest and all kinds of stuff, and heals, and all that stuff. And then here comes Fortnite, and now you're having to not only worry about that, but you also have to worry about collecting materials to build, and you have to build bigger than everyone else. And then here you come and you bring Blackout, and the dynamic of that changed, because for me, it's not, even though it's a bit different, the gameplay itself from the normal multiplayer for Black Ops. I mean, for Black Ops 4 or any Call of Duty, it's more of the same because it's kind of closer to home because of the movements. I'm so used to the movements, and you don't lose the movements. You just you just lose the opportunity to start with a class, right? So that's the only thing that I see different from my perspective. But no, I mean, I agree from both of your points. I think you guys made some solid points. Again, I just wanted to see from your guys' perspective on coming from playing competitive Call of Duty to now, what we have here in front of us, right? So, and that kind of leads us to our first topic, and that's Black Ops 4 first impressions. So, Will, what do you got? What are you read and what have you heard out there about the first impressions?
Well, just looking at the game, it's a beautifully designed game. And then the other thing is, I've never seen or heard a game where the gun sounds are so realistic. I think these are by far have been the most realistic sounding gun mechanics and gun. They even had that predictive recoil that players are using, or that are one of the mechanics in the game. And that predictive recoil it simulates so accurate of what a real gun is like.
So with that right there, Travis, like for you've played Blackout obviously, and how do you compare that predictive recoil and the ballistics? Is that something that you like or dislike? Because obviously when you left Call of Duty, you went to Battlefield because of the more realistic ballistics and recoil. So how does this compare to that, when you make that transition?
Yeah, it's enjoyable. The sniping I would say is nowhere near on par to a Battlefield, especially like Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, where sniping was like at its heyday there in that franchise. I just feel like with and like for most of it, yeah, the recoil is fine. I feel like there could be some more kind of kick in some of the guns, but I know that it is a COD game and they kind of are catering a little bit to a younger audience in comparison to Battlefield. But I think with the sniping, it is still really good. I do enjoy it a lot. The only thing I'd say that just kind of like from a Battlefield perspective is that you can't really see where your shots, and many times like if you're leading a shot, you can't tell like where that bullet's traveling in terms of, I mean, you can see where it lands, but you're trying to see kind of like the travel trajectory of it. And in like Battlefield like 3 and 4, you can actually see kind of like where the tracer is actually, going to actually determine to actually counter and to whether you need to lead the shot more or lead it less. And that doesn't have it. So it's kind of like a guessing game as of now. You just see kind of like where the shot eventually hits for a lot of these sniping shots. But overall, though, it's like, I'm really enjoying the game. And the fact, like, I could tell you when I was playing the beta and I was playing with one of my former COD teammates, we were actually trying to attempt to shoot people on a faraway hill. And lo and behold, we see the shots hitting the hit, like, falling off and actually like bullet drop. And we're like, what? It took you 15 years, but Call of Duty, you've done it. Like, so I'm really happy to see, I'm just so happy to see the franchise to embrace ballistics into this game. And I think that's a really good thing for future. For the future games that are going to come. Obviously, the traditional multiplayer won't have that because the maps are too small to actually really maybe take effect into that. But I think this is a really good step. And I mean, welcome Call of Duty. Welcome to the ballistic world, the bullets. Like, so I think that's great.
No, absolutely. I wanted to get your opinion since, you're a big time sniper. You went over there because of ballistics. So, and I didn't mean to jump in here, Will. I just wanted to make sure I kind of got that there because it just kind of fit, and knowing that we have Travis here, I wanted to take advantage to ask him this question because of the fact that he transitioned over because of the, more realistic feel. So now that Blackout is out, I wanted to kind of get his first hand on it. So thanks for that, Travis. And well, so obviously, you left on the predictable recoil and ballistics feel. What else are you hearing out there as far as first impressions?
I think everyone's happy that we're back to boots on the ground 100%. Of course, one of the negatives that I have and that I've been hearing about it is the healing is no longer automatic. You got to hit the L1 bumper. I don't know. I think it's just, I'm just not used to doing that. It's something that we're all going to have to get used to doing. And I think maybe once we play the game for a few more months, it'll become first nature. But I know a lot of people are kind of complaining about it.
I don't know. I played it myself, and I'll tell you that the first game, once I figured it out, then it's just there. You see everyone right now sliding across the map or trying to slide to get in behind a rock or get cover, and they're already healing, or they're running and they're healing, So it's one of those things where I think it's I think it's more, I don't know. I want to just say that, and maybe you guys could correct me, but I just want to say people are just finding any excuse to hate the game or dislike the game. And that's just because they're more lenient or leaning more towards a Fortnite or a PUBG. But honestly, I really think that the game is good. The healing is easy. Yes, it's a little different, but people have been asking back for boots on the ground, but yet a change in COD. And here it is. They got it. And now I think they're just finding any excuse not to like it. So that's just my opinion.
That's the nature of gaming. You never make everyone truly happy. One of the things that I would say that I don't like, but again, it's probably because it's a brand new game, the user interface of the navigation of the in-game content and getting from lobby and all this other places in the game, just finding where everything is, I thought was a little clumsy and a little weird at first. It just didn't seem natural.
What are your thoughts? I mean, did you find anything wrong with that navigation for yourself, Travis, or is it user friendly to you? Is there something different that you would have suggested?
Yeah, I can see what Will's point is on the user interface. Like in terms of the actual in-game itself, like I feel like the game's receiving overwhelming positive feedback.
For sure.
Like I really am not seeing like the negative, the talks about the past Call of Duties have had, rightfully so, because I mean they've really put a really good effort into the Battle Royale mode. And everyone's been enjoying it. I think the kind of like the biggest critique though that you can have now is the servers themselves. I'm not sure if you guys experience this, but I've been pouring many hours into Blackout, and every time I try to hop into a quads, a 4-man squad, the servers for some reason can't handle it, and the connection gets choppy, and then eventually, the lag hits, and then it usually, like, I've had several games crash under the squads, but the duos and singles have been running pretty smoothly. But yeah, I mean, Call of Duty has been notorious though with its servers. I mean, before, I'm not sure if you guys remember the old days of Call of Duty, but when the individual players were hosting, when the actual host was an actual individual player, the server would pick an individual player. When that person would rage quit, the entire game would stop and say switching hosts. So that was old school Call of Duty, and now it's like I fingers crossed. I hope these are all dedicated servers. So I think, but they still have server issues, and so that's the problem. Maybe it's just because there's just too many people. It's just being overfilled. The system's being overloaded. But I actually joke amongst my friends. It's like, with the servers, crashing and whatnot, and all these different quads with there being like so many people. And Call of Duty's never even experienced this many people in a game before under their franchise. I could just only imagine what DICE is doing, just snickering behind watching this happen as they play out, because like they're used to, Conquest, 64 people, and they're like, that's their, with Battlefield, it's like DICE, that's their bread and butter is, from day one, back in Battlefield 1942, there was always a 64-man player option. So I can imagine with their Battle Royale, it's going to run much more smoother with the servers, and they're just like laughing right now watching what's happening with the COD, like the servers crashing. They're like, this is what we do every day.
Well,
like,
you know what's crazy? So, you say that. I mean, I don't know when the last time you played PUBG, but I know you and I have played it together, and I could tell you that it was frustrating at times because it was laggy, it was choppy, and how long has PUBG been out? And I still feel they can't get the game out right. So here it is. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt that Call of Duty will fix Blackout's choppiness. I think they just did an update where they lowered the amount of squads that are able to come in and drop on a map versus the initial, I think, what they had. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say it was like from 100, they dropped it down to like 88 or something. So they are able to bring down the amount of people in a per match. And then that has kind of fixed it a little bit. I think Battlefield will obviously have the upper hand because of the 64 and man squads and stuff like that, But again, I don't know. I feel like it's going to work out for Call of Duty. I'm a big fan. I've always been a big fan, and I'm really digging Blackout. So I really hope they get it right and fix it. So, but Travis. So with the dynamic change, right? I mean, obviously there's a dynamic change between the movements from Battlefield to to Blackout, right? What is the biggest dynamic change you see in that?
The movement from older Call of Duties to Blackout, or just current multiplayer to Blackout?
Well, a Battlefield to Blackout.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Call of Duty has always been a smooth, like silky smooth game, like in regards to the movement, whereas Battlefield has never had that same kind of fluidity in the movement. But Battlefield does have more, of a realistic kind of like bolt ballistics and whatnot there. It's kind of a little bit less arcadey like. But in terms of the movement, though, I even feel like this Black Ops 4 is even more smoother in terms of the movement than even previous CODs. And I noticed that when I played it at E3 this year, as soon as I played it, I talked to the guy on my left who was also a former COD player, and we said, it's like, yeah, this is like this. It's so smooth. And it almost feels like it on a certain level, it feels like Titanfall, the movement, right? And Titanfall, if you want to talk about in terms of like fluidity and with movement, I mean, you can't beat Titanfall. Respawn, like they do such a good job with the Titanfall games. And a little inside note too, if I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but when you hear the guy within the voiceover announcing like immediate circle collapse, move to the next sector zone. It's the same guy. It's the same voiceover guy who does Titanfall that says like, "Your Titan will be ready in 30 seconds. T minus 50 count for Titan draw." It's the same guy. They hired the exact same voice actor, and so I mean, I feel like they kind of like borrowed a lot from the success of Titanfall in terms of like even the movement and obviously too some of the voice acting.
What's crazy? I think at the end of the day, it's going to be, yes, PUBG might have came out and created the, I mean, that's what everyone says, right? They created the Battle Royale mode, but it's going to be who comes in and puts everything that people are asking for together. Now, can we get it in one game? Maybe not. But for the most part, every other Battle Royale that has come out has been, a little better than the last. Now, with that said, I'm gonna jump into our next topic, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what the influencers are saying, right? So, and you guys could, again, if you guys have heard any other influencer that I have not covered, feel free, if you guys have heard something on that. But so for the most part, right now, I've been looking at Dr. Disrespect and Shroud. Those are the two guys I really, really follow. Like I was telling you in the beginning of this episode, right? And I'm not. It's not that I'm not a fan of Ninja. I just like the Battle Royale PUBG more than I do Fortnite, and I apologize in advance to the Fortnite gamers and everything. I do play the game, but for me, building and everything, it's not my cup of tea. I'm more of the give me a gun and let's go shoot it out, and if you need to use a tree or a rock, fine. You need a duck, great. But yeah, having to build something, then, and that's not my area of expertise, and nor do I like it all that much. But anyhow, so Dr. Disrespect, so he claims he made PUBG what it is, right? Because he's one of the first ones to start streaming it, and I remember him very first when I started seeing the game come out and beta and everything. He very much was, and now during the beta, he started playing Blackout and everything, and then to the point where he loves it so much, he says that he basically called PUBG a hack, and basically he's just in a shorter, nicer words, he kind of disregards the game and says how bad it is, compared to Blackout, right? So we'll keep it at that. But people that know the doc, you guys know that he uses a lot better words than I did to describe how he feels, right? So, but, and then, you start looking at, you go beyond that, and it's the next he's talking about is the feeling, how he feels, and when it comes to the way you die in each of the different games. So when you die in a PUBG match, for him, he couldn't even see the guy. So he felt like he got shot from behind a corner, where, in Blackout, for him, it was realistic. Like the guy was actually looking at me. He shot me. He brought me down, and then he finished me off fine, but he was able to see the guy in front of him, and not know, like, wait a minute, where did I get shot from? Type deal, where the guy, when he looks at the kill cam, it was like the guy was behind the building, and yet somehow he he curved the bullet and killed him just like you would in the movie Wanted, right? So those are those are some of the stuff that I've been reading. I was like, damn, all right, let's go more into Dr. Disrespect, right? So, but yeah, no, I mean, if you look, the only thing he's saying he hates out of Blackout is that there's no private lobbies, and I don't think PUBG has one. I know that they were working on one a while back, and then here comes Fortnite, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to work on some," but I don't. They might have them, but they're not public. So it's really hard for you to go in if you want to invite friends and just make a big one out of yourself. It's really hard to do that. So that's one of the things that he feels they should have, so that if you want to just play among your friends, you can. But man, that's a big long list. I think Xbox Live. I think PSN and all those guys are going to have to update their friends list, because I think you can only have 100, right? So God forbid. Well, I mean, I guess you could still make it because you only need 88 or something like that now. So, but and then the one thing he went on to say is obviously, to be able to make Blackout the game, of choice, it would be just to add those private servers. And he thinks they would be good. From that point on, he thinks the game outperforms PUBG, outperforms, Fortnite, and he just loves the movement. So all these things we've been talking about, this is what Dr. Disrespect has been saying. And then my other favorite guy, like I said, Shroud. You're my favorite guy too, Travis, by the way. I just want you to know that as a gamer, you're my favorite guy too.
Thank you.
So I can't wait for you to start streaming.
So I'm going to start building up the channel and getting the streams going here soon.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we can't wait, man. So start putting those bullet drops and ballistics and everything. But yeah, so Shroud says he loves the recoil. So we go back to what Will brought up in his topic, and what, the questions we asked you, what you responded with. But yeah, for the most part, the recoil, he likes it. I mean, Shroud came from Counter-Strike, right? So the recoil on that. You have to be able to control it, and that's what he really, really likes. And his thing was, makes him feel that this game will reward the skills, the skilled players. So that's something that I see true. I see true to this. If you definitely put in the time, you're going to be able to get really good. And for those that, as he said it, those guys that spray and pray are not going to be able to, they're not going to have a chance in this game. And that's something that I really, really like, because just like you, I got fed up with the laser tag Call of Duty gameplay, and that's not something that again, it's that I'm into. So being able to see these guys that are influencers and they've been competitive, and they play it still day in, day out. And I feel the same way. So I don't know how you feel, Travis or Will, but I do feel I'm with both of these guys. I think PUBG is not, with Blackout now out, I don't think PUBG for me doesn't have a chance, at least here in the North American market. And I don't think I'm gonna go back to PUBG, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like especially PUBG, it's like what I've been saying all along. It's a broken game. It's still somewhat of a broken game, and it feels like an early 2000s game made by college students. It doesn't feel like, it feels like a really, really old school game. It doesn't have that kind of like that polish of like from a AAA studio, like, Treyarch and Activision, going, balls to walls with building something like Blackout. So of course, like that's why it looks so beautiful and clean. And so, whereas, PUBG is just, it was made by Brendan Green and his guys, and it has still kind of like that same kind of feel of like, like that. I'm trying to think of the other H1Z1 and all those kind of like type of games, which they're fun in their own regard, but it's like, it doesn't look polished like a brand new Call of Duty title, and the same with its its gunplay and mechanics. It doesn't have that same kind of polish and smoothness and, that same kind of gunplay. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that come over from PUBG, but I know we're going to get into that as well later in this cast as well, to talk about kind of like the effect it has or lack thereof it has had on PUBG.
Absolutely. Will, do you have anything on any influencers that you heard say anything out there that,
you basically touched on the big ones. I just think, to touch on what you guys were just saying about how PUBG and Call of Duty, how Call of Duty is definitely more polished. You guys are spot on where you're saying PUBG feels like a perpetual game in beta. And that's the difference between Call of Duty, where Call of Duty is they're putting out a polished product every year. Now, last couple of years, the polished product hasn't been up to par, and I think with them not doing a campaign mode, them solely concentrating on Blackout and multiplayer, it's really like I have never seen a Call of Duty so like, let's just say it, drop dead gorgeous. The gun noises, the gun sounds are so realistic and far superior than anything out there in the market right now.
Yeah, no, and I'll tell you a little bit more. I was just looking at an article, and I don't know how much I know you follow TFU, Travis, and you've seen how they play obviously Fortnite, and you played it yourself, and obviously I've watched these summer skirmish, fall skirmish, and stuff like that. And one of the things that I actually noticed was, in these recent weeks was the frustration from Ninja, right? So he talks about how stuff is glitching, and he actually has clipped some videos on when he's glitched and everything. And, in this article, it shows how, it has him talking about and quoting him that, he has been he's now waiting and has been waiting since the beta for Blackout for him to, possibly, and this is a big possibly, transition over to Blackout to stream versus staying at Fortnite. So that's going to be something very interesting to see if, how that influences, or is there going to be any outside influences to help him make a decision whether he stays or he goes to Blackout. So, but again, thanks guys for throwing in your 2 cents on this stuff. But, one of the things we've been talking about is obviously Blackout versus how great it feels against PUBG and Fortnite. But Travis, I know you're going to cover this topic on, has PUBG been affected or not been affected by COD Blackout?
Yes, absolutely. So I thought for sure, amongst many other gamers, that Blackout for sure was going to be the PUBG killer, that, the numbers would drastically drop, as soon as upon its release. But that just hasn't been the case. And I was wondering, why hasn't it? And so, just reading into like more research and why that is the case, it turns out that the main market for PUBG is actually China. And Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is not in China. Like, Call of Duty doesn't have it's not there. And so there's only been a 4% decline in numbers with PUBG. And so, and that's because, PUBG has such a large, base and market in Asia. And also, too, Asia also is more of a PC market. Whereas, with the North America, with Call of Duty has more of a console presence than it does a PC presence, especially over the last years. And so, that just explains as to why PUBG really, really hasn't actually been all that affected. But with the Blackout launch, and I thought for sure, it was going to be, the opposite, but it hasn't for those reasons. The fact that, PUBG is more a Chinese and, an Asian market, and, Call of Duty isn't accessible there. So in that sense, there really is that competition going on over there. And that's why PUBG hasn't been influenced.
Which is insane. I would have thought they would have released it. So, but you know what though? I've been seeing, and hearing that it's really hard to get into that market and release anything. Obviously, you got this big game, the big Tencents of the world that control a lot of the stuff, but it's just, I don't know. How do you drop it? And I think Call of Duty does it well, right? They go by markets, their highest demographics, because, if you recollect, Call of Duty started on PC years ago, right? It was on PC years ago, and then since then it has transitioned over to console. And now, I know, as you talked about, in the Asian market or in the Chinese market with PUBG is highly PC. So now, they're releasing PC, but most of the updates are still on PlayStation, right? So all the first updates, because of their agreements, they're all going to still be released on PlayStation. So I don't know how they're going to do it, because PC, I'm sorry, but PC are kind of spoiled players because they always get the latest and greatest, and they do. Nothing bad with it, but they always get the latest and greatest releases before everyone else. And this is the first time that I've seen the opposite, where the actual console is getting the latest and greatest before the PC players do. So I'm really happy about that. Just because not hating on the PC players. I love them. I love all gamers, and I'm trying to get into PC myself, but this is a change. So I don't know how Call of Duty is going to do it to gain that popularity in China, but it's going to definitely be interesting to see how that develops in the next few months and year to come.
Well, I don't even think Call of Duty is accessible in China. I don't even think they even allow the game in there.
Yes, and why though? That's a good question, right? I know we don't have the answer.
Well, I've been reading a little bit about this, and you have to have a company that's tied to the Chinese government in order to launch something into their market. So I read something recently about Tencent actually teaming up with Call of Duty to release a mobile-only version of Call of Duty in the Chinese market. I don't know if that's actually launched yet, but I know I read for sure that they're teaming up with Tencent.
Yeah, and
I think I read that. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, and I read the same thing. It's just interesting to see, like, if they get into mobile, well, then would that, kind of lead the way to PC being released? That's the main thing, because if they do, what are your thoughts that would happen to PUBG at that point, Travis?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, if Call of Duty ever got I know there's Call of Duty ripoffs in China. There is like these different kind of games out there that look like Call of Duty, but it's just like a kind of like a little version, like a copy off version of it. So I'm not sure how, like, if those copy off versions are also going to then try to implement their own Blackout version. I don't know. But I just know, like, Activision doesn't have, they're just not there because I don't think they have like an inside deal with the government.
Yeah. I think even if Call of Duty hit PUBG market, I don't think it's going to decline PUBG all that much. PUBG, Fortnite, Call of Duty, these franchises are so huge, and their communities are so entrenched in that particular game. Like, I'm a Call of Duty fanboy. I don't care what's the latest game for any franchise that comes out. I'm still going to be all about Call of Duty. That's what I like. That's what I'm used to. And that's how consumers are for the most part. They stick with a brand, and they stick with something that they're familiar with. People don't like change. And I just see that not changing people from one franchise over to another all that much.
I think it might be, though, different with PUBG because PUBG doesn't have like a multi-title history. It's like, the first. I mean, it's the PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. There's not PUBG 2, 3, 4, 5. And so It did get like a big following. But I feel like a lot of those players, especially like Shroud, who care more about like, the realism and what they're trying to do, is like, I feel like, people who jump on a new game like that are easy also to leave that game since it doesn't have like a built-in like audience already, like Call of Duty has had for years, so I could see people leaving PUBG because it's like, okay, we tried it, tested it out. There's a better version. I could go play this elsewhere of what I want to still get at, so whereas Call of Duty is like, no matter how where it goes, like if it's going to go futuristic or whatnot, everybody has kind of like that built-in audience, whereas PUBG doesn't have that same history.
No, absolutely, and I'm gonna bring you on something. So we're talking about change and everything. Obviously, you left. You told us you left Call of Duty to go to Battlefield, and your games was Battlefield 3, 4. So what do you think of the new Battlefield 5 coming out?
So Battlefield 5. Wasn't too impressed with the beta all that much, and I was a little bit confused, as much as the rest of the Battlefield community was, with kind of like I know like it really the politically correct spin they threw with Battlefield 5, especially with that launch trailer. Everyone was, oh my gosh, the comments were just absolutely hilarious. So like, what time period are we in? It's like people are like, is this a Michael Bay commercial? Like people were just so confused by it. And I think it actually received the most dislikes of any Battlefield trailer was the Battlefield 5 launch trailer. And people were like, and a lot of people were saying too, World War III is going to be my Battlefield game this year. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with like the new and upcoming game called World War III, but that is going to be a Battlefield competitor. So a lot of people are actually turning their sights and maybe going over to that, and rightfully so. I mean, Battlefield has, I feel like has been on a decline since Battlefield 4. Like, it's like after Battlefield 3 and 4, they kind of, just, I don't know. I really don't know what it is. And maybe it's because of the new Frostbite engine. Not sure. But like with Battlefield Hardline, people were questioning, what was that? Was it DICE's version of GTA? Like what, what was that? And then with Battlefield 1, it looked beautiful. Like the graphics are amazing, but it played more akin to Star Wars Battlefront with just the ballistics and the movement than it did like the previous Battlefield titles. So I feel like, but I did hear from other YouTubers like Jack Frags and Level Cap Gaming and Westy that Battlefield 5's gun mechanics are supposed to play more akin to Battlefield 3. I didn't get that sense at all when I played the beta. But I am trying to remain hopeful in that they are gonna make it better. I know that they did throw out a lot of the non-historical stuff that they were throwing in, like with like Terminator chick with the arm and all this stuff. It's like they're trying to make it kind of go back to itself because they realized there was a kind of like a backlash to that. But I remain hopeful. Like it's not out yet. It comes out in November. I played the beta and I was a little bit scared playing that, seeing how that played out. But hopefully we'll see where this goes. And they're also introducing a lot of different stuff as well. Like I know like what they have like gun ammo crates and like different places for you to like grab ammo, but it's like it's kind of annoying to running out of ammo after like 2 clips and you having to go hunt it down. So I'm curious to see how it all plays out. So I'm going to remain hopeful though.
So do you think, I want to hear you guys' points of view. Do you guys think a lot of this negative backlash is due to that female character that they introduced? I mean, I know the community can be, I get brutally sexist at times. Do you think some of that backlash is due to that female character?
No, I don't think it has to do with the female character. I think it's the overall political correct message. It's because they're showing disabled and dismembered people fighting in World War II that, you could be, and when an actual DICE developer came out and actually was interviewed and he was sad and he said, he's like, we wanted to show that disabled people could take part in the war. With that, we're like, okay, there's a certain point where you're disrespecting history, and it's like,
correct.
I think inclusion's great. I think to show female characters is great and whatnot. But when you start crossing the line of actually disrespecting those who actually fought and laid their lives out on the line and died for this country, that's where I think you're crossing the line. And I think that's what a lot of people are kind of unhappy with, is kind of like that politically correct message that they're trying to wove in. And I think the Battlefield community has, responded to that.
Well,
so
let's look at how serious World War II games are. Like people tend to take those games way serious than what they're video games.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
They're video games, but people take World War II games like so serious, and they want them to be as authentic as possible. And I think with the female character, the disability people involved, all this other stuff that they're trying to be inclusive with, I think it's really burning those people that are really, I guess, hardcore, authentic style of people that want to see that realistic play.
I don't know. I just think, listen, all right, if you're going to put a game out, then put the game out and let the people, there's obviously World War II games have been in and out. I mean, from what I've experienced in my 20 years of, being in this exact gaming community, I've seen so many games come out, like, World War III now, right? As Travis mentioned, I mean, that's another game that's coming out a little, I'm not saying it's in a World War II type deal, but again, it's a competing game. Now, is that game going to go back to launching their own World War II? And what is that going to have, and stuff like that? So it's always everyone trying to make their game better than the other. I think that's the most thing that people are doing. And it's who attracts and does it better, and just like I was saying with Blackout and PUBG and Fortnite, the Battle Royale mode was created, by PUBG, as everyone is saying, but who's going to make it better? Obviously, in the last year, Fortnite has made it better. It gained all the popularity. It took a lot of it away. The game was running smoother and everything. Now here comes Blackout, and guess what? Now it's in the top of the food chain. When you start looking at Twitch, if you're a streamer, like watching streams or anything, you look at YouTube, you look at Mixer, it's right on top. It's beating it, and they're doing, summer skirmish and fall skirmish. And now this is the first $20,000, Blackout tournament that was hosted by Esports Arena. And look at how many people it brought in. You had all the big boys playing there. So it's going to be, I think, yes, you're right in a part where they're trying to get the hardcore gamers that love the WW2 or World War II, genres and just World War II, and I think it's because we're so close in generations to that, where we had a grandfather or someone that, fought in it. So it hits home. But at the end of the day, I just think everyone just competes against each other to see who does it better. And that's who's really going to win. And I don't look at it in any political way, shape, or form. I look at it as, what does the game offer for me? Do I enjoy the game? Do I not enjoy it? That type is what I look at. If I'm going to enjoy the game, fine. I don't look at everything else, that you guys were talking about. So, but,
I think just to piggyback off that, Silver, I think we also too just have to look at, the publisher and developer side of things too. It's like at the end of the day, they're a business, right? Yeah. And so they want to be inclusive as much as possible. And I think that's a good thing. And so obviously, like, there's going to be, that side of, it's like, how much do we want to, respect and kind of like maintain history? At the same time, it's like, how do we bring in newer audiences? How do we bring in a younger generation? How do we make ourselves more inclusive? And I think that's also kind of like, we have to also look from their lens as well, right? And see like their business. It's like, how are they going to walk that tightrope and try to, still, kind of try to keep things on the historical side of things, but at the same time appeal to a newer audience that they haven't, in the past, in the original, games that they made were able to go after. So I think too, we have to look at it from their perspective, from a business side, and see that's why, why they're making the certain decisions that they're making.
Absolutely. And you know what, guys, I think we touched on a lot of good points today. I think we've had a lot of great discussions, a lot of great points with Blackout, PUBG, the rest of the Battle Royale, your your personal feelings, Travis, towards Battlefield 5 and I'm sorry. And, and I think that, when you look at the overall picture, you brought up something, I brought up something, and Will brought up something. And at the end of the day, I could tell you that we all like Call of Duty, but yet we all are expecting different things out of the game, and that's what these developers and publishers, as you say, they constantly fight every day on how to make it better and be able to attract all these people, and I honestly, I can't wait what the next game is going to be, right? I already saw Blackout. I already see what it's doing. I already saw what Black Ops is doing. It's multiplayer. There's a game mode called Heist, right, Travis, that you really enjoyed. And
yes.
And again, I think that's, based on your feedback on that, I think it's gonna be a great competitive, game type or game mode. And like I said, so I'm really looking forward to all these guys, Forge Arena out there, World War III, and then you start looking at like these split gates that are coming up, right? And if you guys don't know who they are, go check them out. Again, it's Forge Arena, Split Gate, and then World War III. I think the beta was released yesterday. So yeah, and all these different types of games that are coming out that are also in that realm of, Call of Duty, Halo, the type of stuff that we've been talking about. So, but yeah, hey, Travis, listen, I want to thank you for joining us, and for being here. And, again, welcome on to as our Chief Strategy Officer. And Will, once again, thanks for being here. And I'm sure that we'll be talking to everyone. Do you guys anything else to add to this before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I want to say follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Esports Lab. Travis?
Yeah, Silver, Will, guys, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I really enjoyed it. And look forward to being on the next one. Thanks for bringing me on the team.
All right, absolutely. Well, hey, guys, again, we didn't get any questions from last week, but we know it's episode 1. So we hope that with episode 3, maybe you guys have some questions for us based on this episode. So again, thanks, guys, for listening to Under the Scope. powered by Esports Labs. And this is episode 2. So again, if you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to ask us, and we'll more than gladly answer them for you in our episode 3. Again, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.